Well, Steven, we're here. We're almost done with Community. I didn't think we'd ever make it, but we made it. And I think, how about, just for old time's sake, we record intro to the podcast just one more time.
Let's do it, Zach. I think we can handle it. If you like what we do here, make sure you mosey on over to patreon.com/can'tdisappointpodcast. For as little as $5 a month, you too can feed a Zach and Steven in need, and you'll get access to all sorts of awesome content. Our weekly live pre-show that we do, You Can't Diss a Pre-Show. We've got some bonus podcasts on there. Days and days, just scads of content over there for you. Plus maybe some new stuff coming soon, so make sure you put your ear to the ground, send us your bones, throw us at least a $5 and see what it'll get you.
Follow us on Twitter over at You Can't Diss a Pod. It's very important because starting October 18th, we'll have the week-long poll that decides between the 4 shows we've chosen for our next full Rewatch podcast. So follow us on Twitter, make sure you're a part of that poll, and tell us what show we should talk about next.
If you just can't get enough, wash those patties and come over and double tap us on Instagram over at Can't Disappoint Podcast. We're also on Facebook and YouTube under the whole name of the show, You Can't Disappoint a Podcast. All sorts of vids, things to like, subscribe, and slap the bell to get notified.
After we finish the series finale of Community, we'll still be a weekly community podcast for the rest of 2022 as we conduct a series of community superlative podcasts where we'll be creating top 5 lists on several different community-related topics. Follow us on all our social medias to see how you can be a part of those final podcast episodes.
Speaking of 5, if you think that we're both 5-star men and this is a 5-star show, make sure you leave a review wherever you review your podcasts, on Apple Music, on Yelp, on Spotify, on TripAdvisor. We're there. Just check us out.
Everyone, it has been an honor to do this Community Rewatch podcast for the past few years, and I hope you'll stick around with us as we wrap it up and move on to the next thing. Steven, what do you have to say as we move onward and upward?
Thanks for sticking with us as long as you have. We hope that you hitch your get-alongs to our pick-em-up and ride along with us into whatever the future holds.
All right, and for one of the last times, let's do it. Let's start the episode of You Can't Disappoint a Podcast. Okay. When this boy meets world, wandering down this road that we call life is what we're doing. Yeah. It's good to know I have friends who will always stand by me when this boy meets world.
Amen.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 4th and final, this is exciting, the 4th and final rendition of America's Next Top Zach and Steven Rewatch podcast. Here on You Can't Disappoint a Podcast. To talk about the 4th option, of course, that is Boy Meets World. Hello, everyone. I'm Zach, and whatever you do, don't poke the big bubble on your ceiling.
Nice. I'm Steven, and I also need to go to sleep to a track of Trailer Park Sounds.
How are you doing, buddy? It's exciting to be here.
It is exciting to be here, Zach. I'm gonna address the Michael J. Fox Teen Wolf tuft of hair in
You're
the
gonna
room.
address the pig in your closet.
Yeah. I'm still kind of buzzing from
Steven
really
and
cool
I
we got
just
to do
took
today.
a ton of ecstasy moments before starting our conversation on the father-son dynamics of Boy Meets World's Raging Corey. No, go ahead, Steven.
I've got
the
a
people have
Raging
heard it.
Corey.
They know about it, or if they haven't heard it,
Yeah,
this is a great way to plug it.
Not 2 hours ago, we're talking to Andrew Guest.
I really hope you guys
To Andrew Dice Clay.
have heard. Yeah, I know. You didn't have any answers to any of our Parks and Rec questions.
Yeah, he really should have known.
I mean, Andrew Dice Clay would know just as much as Andrew Guest would, I guess. But yeah, that was really exciting, and we released it not on the regular day for our podcast, so if by chance you missed it, we got some crazy information about the Community movie and writing for Community. Everyone we've talked to, or when I got to talk to Eric Charles Nielsen, it's all been actors so far. Mm-hmm. It was so cool to talk to a writer.
Yeah.
It was very, very
cool. So awesome.
So go check that out. But we're here for something else, and I'm maybe not just as excited, but I'm also very, very excited for what we're here to talk about today. So let's kick off the show by, as always, shouting out our $10 and up patrons over at patreon.com/can'tdisappointpodcast. Those people are Danny M. Lugo, Mary Baker Budisa, Brian Thurman, Planeswalker Prez, Emmy Azrael, and Brandon Fulken.
I think it's Brindanta.
I've yet to receive
He's
word
Italian.
from Brandon on what it actually is. I've yet to receive word on the correct pronunciation.
They don't address it,
No,
which means
they
we must
don't.
be doing great.
We must be doing it right if they haven't said anything each time.
Yeah. This is 2022. If somebody can't pronounce your name, tell them how to pronounce their name, and they'll work at it. So just tell us if we're doing it wrong, but clearly we're not. Brindanta.
And also, we've got to give a shout out to the man who did not dare click on this podcast. That is, of course, our who I'm sure clicked on the. I'm surprised I haven't gotten a message already.
Yeah.
Within an hour of the interview ending. Of
Do you think he's proud of us?
How'd it go? I feel comfortable explaining myself because Daddy's not listening to these words. No, I think he's like, I should have been able to do it. Or they should
I mean,
have
just
asked
like
me
for
to
all
do
we've
it.
accomplished in life, like for what we've become.
I don't think so, though, is what I'm trying to say. No.
But we were like
Answer
nothing,
same.
and now we're like talking to people. I mean, we're
I think
still
what
nothing,
he thinks, and rightfully so, is that we would be nothing without his support.
which is true. Which
Which
why
is
we
so
thank
true.
you every single time we do something.
Yeah, and I don't know why we keep testing the waters. We absolutely would never have talked to Joel, never would have talked to Andrew today, never would have talked to all of the like Kevin Lanigans and
the Alex,
and Zoe and Bo. Wouldn't know Alex, wouldn't have been on. All of it is literally now not to discount what all of those other people have done for us, but none of it would have happened had at Communities on Twitter not said, hey, it's cool you're doing a community podcast. Here's a group chat of people that can help you, and here is my audience of followers to listen to it.
Yeah,
so
amazing.
As we're starting to wrap this up, I'm incredibly thankful for it, and I'm a little bit nervous for whatever we do next, because I don't think at
Can we
Boy
give him a
Meets
gift
Worldies
basket?
on Twitter
Like, you
is
think
gonna...
he'd give us his address? His after he moved to avoid us, you think that he'd give us his new address so we can send him a nice little present? Like a
by the end
picture
of you
of my
saying that
body or
sentence,
something?
did you believe that the present would not include jokes? I don't think we're getting that address. So if any of you dark webbers out there want to
would
go
absolutely be a sensual calendar made up with Zach and I.
to communities.onion on the dark web, please dox Matt from Communities for us. Let's get that address.
Get that addy.
We'll send a box of... No, I'm not gonna say that. We should buy like some body chocolates.
Yeah, edible panties.
Yeah,
3 pairs.
Pictures of us in the edible panties
Yeah.
before shipping them off. So I'm glad he's not listening, and I'm very thankful for the support that Communities have given us. And I didn't mention it when I was shouting out our patrons. If you like what we do here and you want to support us, patreon.com/can'tdisappointpodcast is where you can find all kinds of great things that we do over there. We're nearing the end of Brokeback Bebop as we're getting into the live action rendition of Cowboy Bebop. We've got You Can't Diss a Pre-Show that we do just about every time live before we record this podcast you're listening to. And you get all kinds of things early before they go on the free feed, like the Andrew Guest interview. Our patrons heard it first, and you could be on that list and get shouted out by us every week. Patreon.com/can'tdisappointpodcast. Steven, we've been so focused on the interview that we recorded earlier today that we haven't done a lot of catching up, really. How are you doing?
No, I'm
What's
good.
going on?
Let me think. We've probably been watching what we've been listening to.
Sure.
I've been, let's see. Oh, started watching a new season of Hell's Kitchen. They're doing old people versus young people, so that's exciting.
Yeah. Sounds like my Google search history. Old,
yeah,
young.
I don't like old and
Gordon
young,
Ramsay.
like enjoying each other. I want verses. I want it to be a battle.
Yeah,
In
when
the
there's
bedroom.
babies involved, Steven has a hard line drawn.
Which I thought of that, Zach. We've talked a lot about baby play.
We've talked
I saw
so
a
much
video
about it.
on, I think it was, should I be concerned that, I think it popped up on Danny's TikTok?
Adult babies.
No, it was this video. Maybe it was on her Instagram. But it was, she was like, people come to my house to see all my ribbons for like best in show, but they don't ever realize that I'm the dog. And it was talking about puppy play, where she's like a dog and her boyfriend, or
That
sorry,
tracks for
their
the stuff that I
boyfriend
know that
is
you
their
watch
handler.
and enjoy.
And I was watching it and I was like, you know what? Still better than f***ing a baby. I can get behind that.
You heard it here first, folks.
Steven prefers pup play to baby play.
Don't love either of them, and I don't think I'm willing to make that same statement.
Well, because here's my thing,
but again,
Zach.
my thing is the same with all of it.
She isn't a dog.
She's not a baby!
But she knows, everyone knows she's not an actual dog. She's just pretending to be one.
It's
a baby.
It's the same.
Somebody's imagining a baby. They're not imagining a dog. You're not like, oh god damn,
nobody's
lassie.
thinking about dogs.
No, it's still a person in dog's clothing. You're not actually thinking about a dog, but with the baby thing, they gotta be thinking about a baby.
No, it's literally the same thing that you're saying about the other one. So thanks for listening to the podcast,
dogs.
Everybody.
We once were babies, Zach.
Need to find a way to move past this. I am really...
You know what? Once Upon a Baby, come on the show.
I'm really disappointed that the story of the last, era of this podcast is that being the main argument that we cannot settle on. I don't know what that says about us. How much Steven really wants to be a pup. And how much I just want a big old binky in my mouth.
Yeah. What? Wait, what if it was a dog and a baby? That's fine, right?
That's fine. Because
that's got to be fine.
They go on Disney Adventures all the time.
There's no old man involved.
No. But dog ears, you got... That dog ears, you got to...
Well, if it's a puppy. How old's the dog?
Okay, so it's okay for... Jesus Christ.
A puppy can f*** a baby.
Jesus Christ, Steven.
But an adult can do neither. You got to be the same age as the dog. That's the consensus.
That's not the consensus, folks. I asked you, how have you been?
I'm good, buddy. What's new with you?
Saw a couple movies. I talked about wanting to see Bros, and I did see Bros, and I really, really enjoyed it, and I'm really bummed out that it's not making very much money. It's incredibly funny. It's very touching, and I don't always cry at movies, but I definitely cried at this one.
Wow.
And I also saw Don't Worry, Darling, which
Did you cry at that one too?
No, but it was just a mess. It was pretty to look at. Florence Pugh is as good as ever, but the script is a mess, and the twist did not work for me personally at all, and I left feeling pretty dumb about that movie.
Yeah, we talked a little last night with some spoilery things, because I do not plan on watching the film, and it sounds absolutely hilarious.
I can't say that you shouldn't ever watch it. Like, if you get the chance to watch it, it's kind of entertaining.
I like Florence Pugh. I find her to be somebody I would like to watch. In a movie.
You dress her up like a puppy, no problem.
Yeah, I think she'd pup up real good.
It was one of those movies, it really wants to be an Oscar movie that's worth a lot of conversation, and it just isn't, but it's still kind of fun to watch.
You know, Zach, that brings up an interesting conversation. We kind of live in the era, and 30 Rock, stay on the thought of that, pointed it out a long time ago, but do you remember when Tracy Jordan, what was the name of the show?
Tracy Jordan.
Yeah, was trying to get the EGOT, and he made that movie hard to watch.
I don't remember that joke specifically at all.
So he made a movie that won an Oscar, to get him the EGOT, but it was called Hard to Watch, and it was just the most, Oscar-y story you can think of, he had a disability, he was poor, all this stuff in it, and it was a funny joke because there are those movies that sure some of them are good stories.
The Pursuit of Happiness.
Some of them are that's a true story, Zach.
Yeah, but it's definitely one of those movies that's made to maybe win Will Smith an Oscar.
Absolutely.
Did he get nominated for that?
I don't even think he was nominated for that one. He should have won for Ali. Did I say I saw King Richard? Did I talk about that on here?
Yeah, you did, I think.
Yeah, I get it. He was great.
I would have slapped Chris Rock.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would have slapped Jada Pinkett Smith. on her bald ass head.
I wouldn't have slapped Chris Rock. Steven, you are on a roll this afternoon.
I wouldn't have actually slapped Jada Pinkett Smith if I were her husband or anything. I don't think hitting women's okay. But I don't like Jada Pinkett Smith very much.
Steven, babies and dogs f***ing okay. Hitting a woman, not for me.
Not for me.
Well, let's talk about anything else, I think, right?
Yeah.
Let's
What are
move
we
on.
here to talk about today, Zach? It's
America's Next Top Zach and Steven Rewatch podcast is back for the fourth and final time. You've got all of the information you need after this podcast.
Is the voice.
The 4 shows are Bob's Burgers, The Good Place, It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, and now Boy Meets World. This podcast is coming out, obviously, today, Monday. It's October 17th. Tomorrow, if you're listening to this at the time of release, tomorrow, the 18th, opens our Twitter poll over at You Can't Diss a Pod. Starting on October 18th, for a full week, you'll be able to vote between these 4 shows. But if the poll's active right now while you're listening to this, don't go vote just yet, because we've still got some stuff to talk about before you can make an informed decision, right?
Oh yeah, we gotta make sure that you get all the info necessary, that you get to really weigh all your options.
Right.
You know, lick them all a little bit, see if they taste good.
We're here to talk about the 4th show, Boy Meets World, and we're going to talk about a specific episode, Raging Corey, from Season 5. But before we get into it, let's just talk about how we came to this show, what role in our life it's played up to this point, and why we think we'd like to talk about every episode of it. Would you like to go first?
Yeah, so I really liked Boy Meets World as a kid.
Me too.
I think I probably discovered it just one night on Disney Channel, like a rerun was showing or something like that. Disney Channel or ABC Family, I feel like it was always on one of those two networks, like late at night. And, you know, having basic cable, you had those channels. And as a kid, you only knew a couple channels that you were, like, allowed to watch. And so seeing this show that was a lot more real than some of the cartoons and things I normally watched, it really intrigued me. I was like...
As a kid, it was very real.
Yeah, it had, like, romantic engagements, like people having crushes and breaking up and dating. And this was kind of the first show that had younger people doing that I had watched, because like obviously I saw like a lot of shows with my mom and things, but I didn't watch Degrassi or stuff like that as a kid. So like this was that for me, that was like that, oh, being a teenager is looks kind of cool, and like dating and like kissing and like sex and things like that. I was like, wowza.
You're absolutely hitting the nail on the head for why this show is so important to me. And even when we weren't alive for a large part of its original run, why this show is so important to me, it's exactly because of when I started watching it, and that this is a show that stars a character like Corey, who is such an everyman that regardless of who you are as a kid, you can, if you're a boy, you can picture yourself as Corey when watching the show. You can fall in love with Topanga along with Corey. You can want a best friend like Sean. You can want the parents like Alan and Amy. It's just, for me, it was really easy to... through this show, and it's really special that this show started with the kids so young and got to go to the point where they were past college, to make this a show that as a kid showed me what growing up could be like. Like what to look for. And obviously seeing it now, it's funnier and more heightened and more cheesy than the way I thought of it then. But this showed me all kinds of stuff. It showed me what a true love relationship when you're young could look like, for better or for worse, you know, with Corey and Topanga. And yeah, I really like this show. I always have. And I love that, like I said, the characters get to grow up. It's not like Full House, where even though the characters do grow up, the tone of the show is very consistent. But if you take like a first season episode of Boy Meets World versus a last season episode of Boy Meets World, it turns into like a teen college comedy that is a little edgier. And I think that's really neat.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this show, you know, for me, it was Sean that I really gravitated towards, you know, with his relationship with his dad, kind of a little bit like different upbringing and things like that. I think was really cool to see that portrayed in a character that you still liked, that wasn't just, and they address it, you know. Corey was kind of this very, you know, cookie cutter, stable household.
Very
and he has
privileged
issues
child,
that are real.
very privileged family.
And he has this friend, and a lot of times in shows, I feel like that friend was in it for like 2 episodes, and then they got him cleaned up, And, then he was fine after that. He turned his ways around. But Sean was Corey's best friend for the whole show, and Sean was Sean.
That's
for the
always
whole
an
show.
issue. And Corey being privileged to the point of not always recognizing the difference in the two of them was something that they got a lot out of. Not exactly in this episode. The one we picked out, unfortunately, doesn't have a lot of Corey and Sean or Corey and Topanga.
Yeah.
But we picked it from a list of episodes that we were considering, and there are some reasons why I'm really glad we're talking about this episode.
Yeah, me too.
What do you think our Boy Meets World podcast would look like?
I feel like it'd be a lot of us breaking down not only the character beats and things like that, but also kind of just examining the world in the mid-90s. Because as much as it's weird to say, that was not super recent anymore.
You're right.
We're
this
like
episode we're
multiple
talking about
decades
aired
away.
in 1998 from season 5. And
that's
I
crazy.
was like 11 months old when this came out.
Yeah.
I think a Boy Meets World podcast would be very fun because I think two grown-ish men talking about a show that they liked a lot when they were a kid. I think it's going to bring up even more than Community did, all kinds of stories where we relate and where it reminds us. I think it would really, really take us back to when we were very young, which is something that sometimes I don't really tap into that as much as I'm getting older. I think that'd be a lot of fun. And I also think Boy Meets World is such a classic show that has a lot of real good about it, but it's also very campy, very cheesy at times. The acting can be corny. It's a laugh track sitcom. There'd be a lot of cheese to camp on in this show. And I think we would riff hella about Boy Meets World. I think it'd be a lot of fun.
That we love, but we also like can acknowledge where it's very, like I said, campy or corny or very, let's all hug around the dinner table at the end of the episode. 90s family sitcom. But I think that it'd be really fun to talk about and go through and relive.
Very, very different from Community, where when the episodes end with everyone hugging around the table, we're like, did they earn that?
Yeah.
And with this show, there's no conversation of, does this track? Because there are some astounding continuity errors in Boy Meets World, such as the cool motorcycle Mr. Turner, Mr. Turner, the teacher, he adopts Sean. He becomes a father figure for Sean. Sean joins a cult, and while Sean is off in the cult, Mr. Turner gets in a really bad motorcycle accident. And the episode ends with Sean like at Turner's hospital bedside and being like, "I don't really believe in God, but God, will you please? I just can't be alone again. I lost so and so, and now I can't do this." End of episode, and then they never mention it or him again ever.
Was that one of the ones that I suggested? Because it almost was.
I think
Sean
you did Cult Fiction,
one.
The Sean and a Cult episode.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's the same episode as the motorcycle accident, but it's around the same time.
Yeah.
There's so much silly, because genuinely, back in the 90s, I was in a very famous TV show. 90s television wasn't often, some shows would be released on VHS, but not a lot. More often than not, you weren't going to be able to go back and watch old episodes of a show until they're in syndication, and even then, you don't catch them in order. It's easy to not worry so much about continuity because people are supposed to be able to watch any episode and pick up what's going on. But that's a huge...
That's a pretty major
point.
thing.
Is he dead? Is he not? Actually, it's in the episode... I think at the end of season 5, they graduate. Corey and Sean are still in high school, I think. And they graduate.
Are still in high school.
They are.
This is this episode.
And they graduate high school at the end of this season. And they're like in the hallway. And all of a sudden, Minkus, who hasn't been in it since season 1, shows up. And they're like, Minkus, we haven't seen you in forever. Where you've been? And he says over there and points like beyond where the camera is.
Yeah.
And Sean and Corey are like, oh, we don't go over there. People who go over there don't come back. And he's like, what? I've been there the whole time. And he leaves. He's like, hey, Mr. Turner, how you doing?
That's really
so
funny.
The show does some crazy shit, but they're also very meta and self-aware of the crazy shit that they do. I want to talk for a second about the elephant in the room, kind of with the Always Sunny podcast, that there is a Boy Meets World podcast. It's hosted by Danielle Fishel, Ryder Strong, and Will Friedle. I really like it a lot, but even more than the It's Always Sunny podcast, I think we have a lot to offer for a Boy Meets World podcast because that podcast is so specifically focused on what it was like to film the show and to be a child actor. I think we'd have a lot more fun chewing on the cheese and the 90s of it all. I think we would have plenty to say about Boy Meets World.
Yeah, I think so too.
So let's talk about the episode we're here to talk about. What do you think?
Let's do it.
So we're talking about Season 5, Episode 12 of Boy Meets World. This episode is called Raging Corey. It was directed by a really well-known, established television director named David Kendall, who has done episodes of like every kids show that you like, he's directed. And I wrote down he directed episodes of Growing Pains, Smart Guy, Hannah Montana, Zoe 101, iCarly, Victorious, Ned's Declassified School Survival Guide, and Big Time Rush.
Oh, yeah, I danced to a Big Time Rush song quite literally 2 days ago, Zach.
Nice.
Yeah, they actually have a new song that's not bad. I think I talked about it on the podcast.
Okay, and the episode was written by another very established television person, established writer named Barbie Feldman Adler. She wrote episodes of Even Stevens.
That sounds really familiar.
Yeah, she's written episodes of Even Stevens, episodes of Arrested Development. She wrote episodes of My Name is Earl, and she's written for How I Met Your Mother.
Hell yeah.
And this specific episode originally aired on January 9th, 1998. How old were you on January 9th, 1998?
I was 6 months old.
I was 2 weeks away from my first birthday.
Yeah, I'm the end of June, so I had a couple sleeps until then.
You said that, but I'll have forgotten what month your birthday is in by later this podcast, surely. So let's dive into some trivia from the episode of Boy Meets World that we're talking about for this little preview podcast. When the boys do
trivia!
I've got actually more questions than I thought I was going to end up with. I've got 9 questions for you.
Holy f***ing shit, Zach. I have 5, so why don't you just go on ahead?
Okay.
9?
You said go ahead. And what sport?
9 questions?
Hamilton wrote the other 51. What sport did Alan and Eric play before playing basketball the day of the shove?
I have a question about this.
Okay.
It's racquetball.
Yes.
My first question is, how long did Alan play racquetball with Eric?
I played racquetball with Eric for 2 hours earlier.
You're right.
Yep.
You're right.
What time is it when Feeney shows up at the Matthews house?
12:30.
No, 2 a.m. And what a strange shoehorning of Mr. Feeney into an episode.
You gotta have him.
You do have to have him.
I like that he just made a f***ing bologna sandwich.
I've been spying on you. Yeah.
And then left. I almost asked what kind of sandwich he made.
That is one of my questions, so I'll strike it.
Oh. Did I get it right?
Yeah, I wrote bologna. They don't say bologna, but
it looks
I
like
assumed
bologna.
It was a bologna sandwich.
Yeah.
I would have just accepted sandwich.
What's the pig's name?
Oh, shit. It's when they're arguing. They do give the pig a name, and I don't know it. Oh, Little Corey.
Little Corey. I'll give it to you, even though I started saying it. Yeah.
I didn't hear what you said. I'd like to, for the record, to show.
I said Little.
I remembered it before you said it. You could have said Lil Bill for all I knew.
Lil Bill. Remember Lil Bill?
Yes, I do. What is Corey's biblical times name and title?
Corey.
Yep, you got that part right.
Son of Alan.
Dad's. Yep. 2 more words.
Of Matthews?
No, Corey, son of Alan the Bruised.
The Bruised. That is literally one of my funny moments. What's Topanga's mom's name from the same scene?
Oh, is her name Nebula?
No.
Or she has a sister. She has a sister named Nebula.
I think so.
Her dad is Jedediah. I don't know the mom's name right now.
Miriam. Topanga, daughter of Miriam.
Oh, daughter of Miriam. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. In the airplane, what color are the skydiving helmets?
Oh, the helmets.
The helmets. There's 3 answers.
Blue, yellow, and white?
Yes, sir. Do you know who had what?
Corey had blue, Eric had yellow, Alan had white? Or did I switch Eric
Corey
and Alan?
Eric and Alan both had yellow, Corey had blue, and the instructor had white.
Ah.
But good job. I would give that to you. That was like extra credit.
Thank you. According to Alan, what made him run when he landed from the plane?
Oh. I know because he's running away from Eric and he gives an
Yeah.
excuse. He thought he left the oven on. That's just a guess.
No, momentum.
Where does Jack say that Sean could find a replacement Sounds of the Trailer Park tape? After he
At
breaks it,
the
records over it.
what kind of store was it? At the
Do you want me to give you a hint?
whoa.
Whoa.
That should have helped me more than it did.
Car wash, yeah.
Oh yeah, at the I see you. Yeah, at the car wash. Like if I had a car, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Do you have more?
I do. What is Eric's witness protection program name?
That is my next question. I'm not going to look. It's Dr. Abraham Shapiro?
Yes.
He's from something, New Jersey. I didn't get
he's
the
a
city.
cardiologist.
And he's a cardiologist, yeah. I didn't get the town from New Jersey.
Yeah.
I couldn't understand it. My next question for you. What business is the Hunter's Uncle Dave in?
The Hunter.
The
Hunters.
Like Sean Hunter
Sean
and Jack.
Hunter. Taxidermy.
It's while they're fighting. No, he's in the corrugated box company.
Ah.
And then, like, Jack pins Sean. He's like, I call Uncle Dave in the box business. Do you have any more?
No.
I've got just one because you took, like, two of mine. What else is on the Monkeys with Coconut plaque?
Who it's by. And the year it was made.
And those would be...
That's not your question.
That is the question.
I have
It
no
said
idea.
Stainless steel on wood.
Mm.
It's by Craig Conover,
Ah.
and it was in 1994.
Ooh.
Mm-hmm.
We were looking for 1996. Sorry, Zach.
Well, that means it's time for a next segment, and I always think it's fun when we get to adapt this segment to other properties than Community. So for the last time on this podcast, we're going to find out, did Steven
For the
watch
last
the
time?
episode of the show that we're talking...
Sorry.
You...
I fucked it up.
Did Steven watch the episode of the show that we're supposed to be talking
Steven
about
watch the episode of the show we're talking about this week?
Well, as always, you've got 20 seconds on the clock, and with that song, you've killed about 8 of them. I hope you're prepared. How are you feeling?
I have no idea. I think I can get it. There's not that many things, right?
I think I took a lot of like easier processes for this when it comes to picking favorite funny moments. It's different than for a show like Community.
Yeah.
I think if this were to be the show that we do next, I think probably more than any of the shows, you could knock this out of the park like every week if you wanted to.
I think so.
So are you ready?
I think so.
All right. 3, 2, 1. Meet World.
Oh no, I wasn't. That wasn't the agreed upon word, Zach. Try.
Okay,
we gotta
that
try.
was
I'm
funny,
sorry.
though. I had
it
to do
was
it. That's
funny. You can
okay.
do it. You can do it again. You can do it just like that. I just wasn't ready. Now I know.
Okay. 3, 2, 1. Topanga.
Okay, so Eric and Alan are playing basketball, and Corey's a little jealous because they only talk, they don't play. So then he wants to be a full dad to the two boys, but that's later. Sean and Jack are wrestling because now they gotta share a room because a big water bubble burst. So and Sean's room's dirty. They gotta be brothers. But then Alan learns that he can love both his sons equally, but he needs to give them both the parts of the being a dad that they love.
Stop.
And so the whole family's quiet.
I feel like you think you did better than you did. You didn't mention the skydiving.
I know I didn't. I don't think I did great, Zach. I should have done much better on that.
I don't think you did horrible, but like I said, I think you could have knocked it out of the park.
I could have done really well.
I still
but
think
I
that
didn't.
was... You didn't get the art museum either. You didn't get Feeney, although I guess you could skip that. I'm going to call it a B-.
I think that's fair.
Almost a
Thank
B,
you.
but I'm going to call it a B-. I love this game we play of like, oh yes, that's fair. Thank you. Appreciated. Whenever we give a grade as if it really
the feedback.
matters. Okay, so let's
Well,
move on.
we will be scored on.
Yeah,
our grades
I've
by
been
the end of
keeping a tally, and it's not looking good. Okay, so let's move on into some favorite funny moments. Like I said, something that makes me laugh on Boy Meets World is often more a chuckle with the occasional, like, belly laugh. Unlike
Yeah.
Community, when I have to not write down the chuckles, or else I'd write down practically every line in the episode.
Exactly.
So I've still got quite a few. What did you write down?
Yeah, I've got some good stuff. The first thing is I think it was someone. Oh, it was Eric talking to Corey about how like he hadn't talked to Alan since, and he's like, well, he's afraid you'll hit him again. I thought that whole scene was really funny. Eric's hilarious.
Eric is a really funny character, and it took a long time because he's really boring the first like 4 seasons, and it wasn't the actor's fault. It's because they came to learn that he was such a talented comedic actor, and they gave him so much. Where by season 7, he's a cartoon character, and it's so funny. My first one is between Corey and Jack when Corey's like, yeah, I got in a fight with my dad. He's like, everybody gets in a fight with their dad. No, but I like push my dad down. Oh yeah, that's not as common.
That was funny. I just wrote down that Sean is a star. I love Sean.
He is. Ryder's like the best actor on this show.
Yeah, he's incredible. Every scene,
give or take, like Alan
and he was so young.
Corey,
and he's hits out of the park. But it was Alan saying he pushed me down to to somebody.
I think it's the mom, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think you're very right that Sean is really, really great. And this is an episode where Sean gets like the worst storyline, and he does a good job.
And it's still good.
I wrote down, I thought it was funny when Jack is trying to wake up Sean.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, it was talking to Feeney, and he's like, he pushed me down, George.
Oh, yeah, he pushed me down, George. When Jack turns off the light, and that's what wakes up Sean. It's like, what are you doing? Are you crazy?
One of my hardest laughs of the whole episode was when the scene where they first show Jack and Sean in bed, and the audience is like, woo!
I took some notes. I didn't write that down as a laugh, but there was... Okay, so we reference stuff that nobody knows all the time.
Yeah.
But there's a very specific skit from a very specific animated Adult Swim show.
Which I can never remember the name of, so I can never find it.
It's called Brad Neely's Hargnallen Sclopio Pipio, or something like that. And it has Lizzo in it a bunch. And it's before Lizzo like really popped off. She does a lot of music for the show and does like voice acting for it. And even to the point where to show that Lil is cool, when we first started dating, I showed them Brad Neely and they were like, that's Lizzo. And it was before Lizzo had like radio songs.
That's awesome.
So that was neat. But that show's really funny. And there's a skit about like a Boy Meets World Full House type sitcom about a teenage girl with a predator head, and the joke
girl with a predator head.
And that's funny on its own, but the joke of the skit is that the live studio audience reacts like opposite to what they're supposed to everything. So when the dad's like, I love you, sweetie, they go boo. And when the girl's like, I just feel like I'm ugly and no one ever will love me, they're like, ha ha ha. And it's a really, really funny skit, and stuff like that moment where Sean and his brother are in bed together, just laying there. There's nothing. And I totally get the teen girls being in love with several of the people on the Boy Meets World cast. They were heartthrobs, but that is not the moment to. Ooh. No. I wrote down. I thought it was really funny. I think Corey can be a really milquetoast, boring character, but sometimes Ben Savage has really funny delivery.
Yeah.
When he says, I wasn't paying attention on the ground and I feel I shouldn't be allowed up here. He's got this perfect, like, anxious, especially in the later seasons, he's got this great, like, anxious Jewish guy delivery that I think is so funny.
Yeah, I think he doesn't get enough credit for this show. I mean, for myself included. I always talk about how much I love Sean and Topanga and Feeney, but Corey is, like, really funny.
And he was very, very young when the show started.
Yeah.
And he's in every scene of every episode. He carries the entire show. Now, whether or not his character is the most interesting is another thing. Yeah. But Ben Savage deserves so much credit for carrying this whole show.
Yeah. Let's see. I talked about the trailer park one, but I, like, audibly said, oh, shit, when Jack and Chong were fighting, and he was like, you'll have to excuse me, I was raised in an actual house. I was like, oh,
that was funny. Oh my god. And the audience was too. Yeah. There were two funny moments from this, but it's a very iconic moment in the series, to the point where I think they show the clip in the like clip show part of the series finale when they jump out of the airplane. And the part here when Eric's like, how come we don't have that kind of special relationship? And it goes, what? What? I thought that was really funny.
I really liked the Corey, son of Alan the Bruised, line, but in the airplane bit afterwards, when Eric is like, you jumped out of a plane instead of talking to me. I thought
And
that
before
was really
that,
funny.
you've got to start listening to my views on philosophy, politics, and what makes the universe go round. I don't think
so. Rolls
Which,
out of
what
the fucking plane.
What an awful dad moment. I want to have a conversation when we get through these segments about if Alan is a good dad or not, specifically to Eric.
Yeah.
Okay, I've got a few more. What do you got?
My next one was, and this was one of my like hardest laughs, maybe my hardest laugh of the whole one. It was Eric's line when he was talking to Corey about how he's gonna run away. He's like,
Yep.
and he's like, you didn't witness a crime. He's like, I hit my father, and I saw the whole thing.
I wrote that down too. Really funny. And the last thing I wrote was the whole delivery and commitment of Eric's monologue about the monkey artwork.
Yeah, that was really nice.
Father monkey with one coconut, and the inquisitive look on his face. That's something. That moment and the airplane moment are two moments from this episode that it really stuck with me from the show. I remember it very clearly and was happy that this was the episode those were in.
I know, me too. That was great. Those are all the ones I wrote down.
That's all mine too.
Hey, look at that.
So let's move on and let's talk about the episode a little bit.
Yeah.
I think it's really funny that we are two men with very clear daddy issues, and we're here to talk about an episode of a broad sitcom that tries to tell a nuanced story about how to be a dad to two different sons.
Yeah.
And I really think communities should be listening to this podcast, should be watching this episode of Boy Meets World, and maybe we could all take an airplane trip together.
That'd be fun.
I will not jump out of a plane. That's one of many things I would like to talk to you about.
To be fair, Zach, you've never been up in a plane, so you don't know whether or not you would be comfortable jumping out of it.
I don't have any fear about getting on a plane. It's just that I haven't yet had a reason to. I usually
fly
take
up to
trips.
Chicago. India to Chicago is like a 30-minute flight.
I have no fear about getting on a plane. Genuinely, I think I would love the thrill of skydiving, but I think it would be the actually being able to jump out of the plane. That's like, and
we can do a tandem jump. The instructor will jump out for you. You're just strapped in like a little baby.
Do they have to also be a baby if I'm strapped in like a baby?
Well, as long as you're strapped to his back,
because
it's
I'm
fine.
gonna be rock hard the whole time.
Well, then you'll have to be on the front, like in a little like papoose.
I just don't think, because in a little trigger warning, they say like when people try to kill themselves by jumping off of a building, your brain has so many things that are trying to keep you from doing that.
Yeah.
It is genuinely chemically difficult to make that step in that jump. And I think you're recreating that exact same thing when you're jumping out of an airplane. You know you're safe, or probably safe and attached to a parachute, but that's scary. And also, I'm scared about even hitting the ground even with a parachute. Because what
I
if
don't want to touch
land on my knee? Would you go skydiving?
Yeah, I would.
I think what I would really like to do, and maybe after this would be willing to skydive, I would love to do one of those like indoor skydiving experiences.
Those look so much fun.
To feel the weightlessness and not have any of the fear of the height or jumping out of the plane or the parachute not working, anything like that, just to feel the flight, because everyone wants to feel what it'd be like to fly.
I think what I would want to try even more than before I would want to skydive, like if it was an either or, would be when they like take those flights that go super high and then kind of like dive down, so you have like 30 seconds of like weightlessness.
That'd be fun. I would do that.
Those look kind of cool.
I'd probably be scared. I might like throw up or pass out or something. But I think I could be talked into doing something like that more so than skydiving, or even like bungee jumping scares me.
Bungee jumping scares me the most.
And it's not even because I think I would really like the experience. It's literally the jumping off the thing. That's what scares me. I don't think I'd be able to take that step.
Yeah. Which is funny because I'm like more than willing to skydive. I would do that, but I would never do like the like super high dive where you jump off like a 50-meter like diving boards and shit like that. Would absolutely not. I'm a strong swimmer. I was a lifeguard. Would never do that in my life. That shit terrifies me.
It is scary. I want to go through some notes I took about the episode. The first thing is I want to revisit that conversation. I think the parents in Boy Meets World are pretty great, and they're a little more, while still, the picture perfect parents that all of these shows portrayed, they're a little bit more complex than that at times.
Yeah.
What do you think about Alan in this episode? Do you think he's a neglectful father to not Corey, but specifically Eric?
That's a tough one because I think that he wants to have a relationship with Eric, but I don't think that he values Eric as anything more than he likes sports and he's stupid, so I can't have these kind of conversations that I
And
have
for
with
someone
Corey.
who's supposed to be such a well-rounded father, that's a pretty bad thing to think about
Yeah.
your kid.
It is. But I also think it's really easy, especially in a 90s sitcom, to boil down a character to one thing.
Yeah.
You know, Eric is
Sure.
the goofball. Corey's the crying feeler, you know. He's got
Sure.
the heart size
Yeah.
of the moon.
That's a good point.
And I think that as a parent, it can be easy to do that if you feel like you are overwhelmed. I mean, this is the 90s, so he's a breadwinning, hardworking, you know, man's man dad who's got his precious little baby girl daughter. He's got his older son Eric, who he's like, okay, this
Can
is
kind
my
of take care of himself at this point.
yeah, and so Eric has been playing second or third fiddle for a long time, and I think that much to the detriment of their relationship, because Eric's not just a 10-year-old boy that likes football. You know, he's college age now. He's older.
Well,
He's
neither
been
is
through
Corey,
school.
specifically in this episode, no longer a 10-year-old boy.
Well, Corey never was.
That's
but that's
true.
the thing is that's the vision of Eric that he has in his head, is the
Yeah.
version of Eric that he was close to, and then he had more kids. You know, so I think that it's almost like time kind of paused in that perception of him.
Well, even with this episode's schmaltziness, I think the heart at the problem that Corey has does kind of resonate, because
Yeah.
he's got a great relationship with his dad, and Eric can be jealous of the relationship that Corey has. But when Corey constantly sees that Eric is the one that Alan likes to go play games with and likes to go do things with, it's easy to feel left out. Like, why could we not both go? Why do you and I not do stuff like that? I think it's a genuine problem. And then I think it's interesting that the episode turns in on, because I think this is showcased throughout all of the show, because he's the main character, the family very much favors Corey.
Oh yeah.
And in this episode, I think moments like the I don't think so when it comes to listening to your kids' opinions on politics and stuff, very funny moment, but it's very neglectful of Eric.
Yeah, it's fucked up.
Okay, so I've taken some notes from throughout the episode, some things I'd like to touch on. The first thing is that this is an episode that has a lot of sitcom choreographed, like, shoving and fighting and wrestling. There's a lot of that in this episode. And it's so ginger. Like, the way that it's whenever Alan falls, like when Corey
Oh my
pushes
God.
Alan, it's so like William Russ, the actor that plays Alan, like sitting down on the ground, and Corey supporting him so much as he does it.
It's
It
like
was-
watching professional soccer where they're like, "Oh no, I've been hurt."
I think choreographed movement like that, it looks like dance to me, especially the fight between Jack and Sean.
Oh, that
on
was
the
that
bed.
was definitely.
It's just corny. Just corny fight choreography.
But it's funny, you know, and it's funny because, like, as a kid, I'm sure I was like, oh my God, like, he just threw his parent down. I can't believe that.
I know
like,
for
as an
sure I
adult
felt that
watching
about
it-
that. I think even as a kid, but I was always like thinking too hard about Boy
Sure.
Meets World even when I was 9. I probably thought the Sean and Jack thing was dumb. But I
Yeah.
do think I was like, oh my God. In shows, the respect of parent and child is shown very strongly. And it's not broken in this, but when a moment like that happens that, like,
Yeah.
I don't know, especially as Corey is starting to get older and starting to be more like level-eyed with his dad. I don't know. It is an interesting moment for a laugh track sitcom, which is kind of the next thing I want to talk about. This is the first time we've done a podcast about a show with a
It
laugh
is.
track. How did you feel watching a laugh track show? Did it distract?
It didn't. I grew up watching laugh track shows, and, you know, I don't really think I watch any right now, but I occasionally will see an episode of, like, every once in a while ABC Family has a decent one. Or what's it called now? Freeform? Freeform. Freeform has a decent one, but I don't really watch that many laugh track sitcoms anymore, but because I spent so much time in my life, it didn't feel weird to me. I mean, when they have, like, the occasional sound that's like, okay, that was a little bit ham-fisted.
All
in
of that
there.
stuff is dumb.
Yeah.
If it's just like laughing and applauding, it's fine.
Yeah.
Here's what I'll say. Go ahead.
Go ahead. No.
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 I am definitely at the point where, I mean, there are still a few laugh track sitcoms on the air, but for my taste, I think I still enjoy watching older laugh track sitcoms, but
Sure.
I'm not jonesing for them to make a big comeback, though.
No.
I think it can be a thing of the past because audiences are a lot smarter than that.
We figured it out. We know what to do.
We figured out how
now.
to laugh without being told. Yeah.
Yeah.
However, I would love to go to a taping and to be a part of a live studio audience.
Oh, that'd be fun.
Sometimes, often, especially when a show isn't that funny, it can be very, very distracting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess I kind of forgot. I still see a fair amount of Seinfeld fairly often. Like, it's a good show to throw on when you're going to bed.
Which is easy to forget that that's a
something.
laugh track show because it's so...
because you're actually laughing.
Always Sunny.
Yeah. But
when I think
it
about
didn't detract from me.
Ones that are on now, the only thing that comes to mind is that, like, The Conners is on. And that's a laugh track sitcom that does pretty well in the ratings. But it's like a nostalgia thing. It's not a new idea for a laugh track sitcom. I think we're kind of past that at this point.
Yeah.
I guess when they did the Netflix One Day at a Time, that was pretty popular. And
I liked
was a laugh
that.
track
I thought that was
sitcom.
pretty good.
Yeah. Was Rita Moreno in that?
Yes.
Okay, moving on. What do you think the story is with Sean's closet pig?
Oh,
How to get
you
there?
mean little Corey?
Just to
I think that he probably, much like a
or...
lot of people, got like a baby pig and thought it'd be fun, and then it was not a mini pig because those aren't really a thing. So it then became a giant pig.
So you think Sean's had this pig a very long time? It's not just a pig that like wandered into the trash heap.
No, a pig that big doesn't wander.
Not wandering around in, I think, near Philadelphia.
Philadelphia,
is where this is.
Yeah, in a Philadelphia suburb. No.
You mentioned the weird woo with Sean and Jack being in bed together, which was just weird. What are they trying to imply with that woo? They want the boys to kiss, or just because it's two cute boys? I think
it made it seem like they wanted them to kiss.
Yeah, I wanted them to kiss.
Yeah, absolutely.
I wanted to ask, what are your... So Sean has his tape of the trailer park. What is your... Do you have habits when it comes to sleeping? Are you a habitual sleeping pattern?
So I've had to change them now that I live with Danny, because Danny likes to have like
since
the
I've
TV
lived with
on.
Danny, I've also had to change.
Yeah, but I am a big fan of either throwing on like some lo-fi stuff. I like the rain sounds. That's good for me. Some relaxing music. I'm good with all those. I don't like going to sleep to podcasts because I don't want to like miss what they're saying. But I like the super chill music. But I don't mind a TV show. I can sleep under most conditions.
What? Yeah. You say what?
I can sleep under most conditions. Like, I don't mind having the TV on, or I don't mind having nothing.
You can sleep pretty easy.
Yeah, because I normally, like, just get really, really high before I go to sleep regardless. So, because I don't sleep super well, I make myself in a state where I have no choice but to sleep.
Are you the type of person that will... like fall asleep at the couch while you're doing something or watching something once you've gotten to that point at night? Because I'm not that type of person.
Not really.
I have to like literally put myself to bed. I can be like, man, I'm getting too tired to do this, but I don't doze off. I'm a
dozer during like movies and stuff. I'm at that point of being an old man where like I can fall asleep in a movie theater.
A little bit more into adulthood, but when I was a kid, I was I had a lot of OCD habits. Like, I did always sleep with the television on, which I've learned is awful because it's the same as you with podcasts. I'm not going to fall asleep while there's a show on. I'm going to be listening to and watching the show.
Yeah. I can only sleep to certain shows.
So I
found I could not
slept.
sleep to Sister because it's actually really f***ing funny still. And so I like ended up paying attention and watching like 2 seasons.
When
and
you're
anyone
trying to
was like, what's
sleep,
wrong with
like,
you? And I was
sisters.
like, Sister's on.
Yeah, when I first started spending nights with Lil... they would put up with it, and we'd sleep to stuff like The Office or Friends or like New Girl I slept to a lot.
Oh,
and then at a point, it was like, it's time to put these toys to bed. And now very much I sleep with white noise. White noise really helps me. But that's more to... if I'm trying to go to sleep and it's quiet in my room, noises from outside and other apartments will distract me.
I was going to say, is it pretty noisy where you are at night?
We use the white noise, and other stuff blends in with it, and it doesn't bother me at all. But if it was silent in my room and I could hear other stuff, it'd be tough for me to sleep. What about you? You live in Chicago.
Yeah, Chicago's pretty noisy all the time. So it's a good thing. So Danny's like a super, like, she can fall asleep like this. Like, we'll be mid-sentence and she'll be out, which is a very special superpower that I do not possess.
Well, I guess if you live in a town like Chicago, the city noise can become a type of white noise that you just kind of tune it out and can fall asleep to it.
Exactly.
Let's talk a little bit more about Boy Meets World. One thing
when
that I
Boy
noticed,
Meets World.
the exterior outside shots of like Jack and Eric in Sean's apartment. I'm pretty sure that exterior shot was like B-roll and Friends. I'm pretty sure it's the building. I'm pretty sure it's like Phoebe's apartment building or something, or like someone else, like a significant other's apartment building or something. It looked like because these shows all film on stages, so they use like random exterior shots. I think this might also be an exterior shot.
That'd be
Friends.
incredible.
I don't know. That they showed it like twice, and both times I was like, that reminds me specifically of like a Friends shot. And Friends would have been on it this time, I suppose.
It's true.
Also about sleeping. Do you talk in your sleep? Do you snore?
So, I didn't think I snored.
That's how it always is.
Apparently, I do snore. I don't necessarily talk in my sleep frequently, but I do apparently snore sometimes.
I guess I do snore, and supposedly I am a sleep talker.
I believe you're a sleep talker.
Makes me really upset because my dad is a sleep talker, and
this confirms it.
He works in a prison, and he would say some truly f***ed up shit like while he was sleeping. Like weird voices and stuff, and he would like punch the lamp and like stuff like that. He punched and broke a lamp in his sleep. So when Lily started telling me like, "Hey, you were talking last night," that like scares me. I'm like, did I say anything weird? And Lily's like, no, lamps. You're just. And Lily's like, no, you just kind of say weird stuff. I can't really figure it out. And then I ask you what, and you say what, and then I say what, and then you're asleep.
My mom's a sleep talker. She used to like always like say shit, and I'm like, hey, chief, what? Like she would like tell me to do stuff, and I'm like,
It's always really weird when your partner, or I guess in that case, like your kid, like waking you up from talking in your sleep because you're in like, you've got the wisp of what you just said as you wake up, but you're really like self-conscious. You're like, no, it's just weird. It's really disorienting.
Yeah.
And apparently when Lily wakes me up a little bit when I'm sleep talking, that I'll just be like really heartfelt, like, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. And Lily's like, you're fine. Just go back to sleep. I'm really sorry. And I would never say that when I'm awake, so that's funny.
No, you're apologizing to the lamp. That's
do you know about the saga on Boy Meets World of the Morgans? The sister Morgan?
So, yeah. I do actually.
In the first two seasons, Morgan was played by a really cute, really young actress named Lily Nixay, who really played the part well, but was really young and did not enjoy being in a TV show. And like every year when they got renewed, she'd like throw a fit and cry and stuff. She was like really unhappy doing it.
Who is she? Constance Wu?
So after, I don't get that.
Constance Wu, the actress from Fresh Off the Boat. Apparently, I only know this because she was a video popped up on Danny's Facebook. But she like got like kind of canceled, I guess, because they renewed Fresh Off the Boat, and she was like, she's like, this sucks.
I remember that.
And someone was like, congratulations, and she was like, no.
Yeah, what is it with really rich performers who get pissed when their show lasts 100 years? You're set. I get that it's not like challenging to do the same thing over and over and over again, but that's such a steady, constant pace. I don't know.
And don't tweet.
So the Morgans. So the first. It's like we post our Andrew Guest interview, and immediately there's a tweet from Dom and Andre that says fuck. Okay, so the Morgans, the first Morgan quits or leaves after the second season, and then for like the whole third season, Morgan doesn't show up, isn't mentioned, and then like at the end of the third season, she comes downstairs visibly older and very visibly a totally different person, and says, wow, longest nap time ever, longest time out ever. And it's so corny. So when so even though she's in more of the show, whenever I see this Morgan, I'm like, that's not Morgan.
It's not Morgan.
That's not Morgan. I'm having a lot of fun talking about Boy Meets World, and I'm already having fun with the types of things that it's making me want to talk about. So I don't know, man. The people have it out for making a decision on what show to vote for. I don't think they can go wrong with a single vote.
Did we ever get to the thematic conclusion of the episode, or we just stop after like?
I kind of just brought up my notes. We can talk about what do you want to bring up?
Well, I just want to talk about the I think that the art gallery scene is pretty really good. Like we talked about the jumping out the window, or jumping out of the
You're
plane.
right.
I think
It
this
is a
art
good
gallery
scene.
scene is like really cool and actually a little bit like heartfelt.
Really sets you up to laugh at Eric because you think he's saying something stupid, and then he's spot on. And the moment when Eric says, well, or we could go look at this or this person that's my favorite, contemporary or industrial, but you wouldn't know that, would you? And the dad being like, you're right, I don't know that. Mm-hmm. And I think, like I said, there's some stuff in the episode that makes Alan not look like the best dad. I think what gives him some points is that in this episode, even though he needs to be told like why the kids are upset with him, as soon as he knows what the problem is, he recognizes it in himself and tries to correct it. Which is a lot, like every parent is going to make mistakes like that. You're going to say stupid stuff or leave out a child or really hurt their feelings. But it's more about how you're willing to internalize that and acknowledge it and see it in yourself and like help your kids to feel better. Which I think he does. I think
that does give him a lot of redemption points at the end of the episode, because I think especially for parents of that generation, it's a major thing when you admit that you're wrong in any way.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that I'm very lucky and grateful that as I've gotten older, my mom has, recognized some of the things that maybe could have or should have been handled or done a little differently in my childhood, and is making steps to not do it the same way with my brother and sister.
That's big. That is not very common, and that's
I know
really
that's
great.
not common, and so I'm extremely grateful for her for being open to that. But
because the problem is you bring up problems like that, and I'm not going to tap too much into parent issues. Then your parents take that issue hard and go right to, well, then what? You think I'm a terrible parent? I failed you. When it's really great to be able to, did I do that? Or to be able even to bring it up without having to have it brought up.
Yeah.
That's really incredible. So good for your mom. And I think the parents in Boy Meets World are pretty great, especially the mom.
Yeah, I love Amy.
She's really quiet and doesn't get enough to do on the show, and it's something that the actress has talked negatively about a decent amount, that they never knew what to do with the mom, but to just have her do chores and be there. But she's the one who, like, she's so emotionally mature. She sees exactly what's going on and is able to tell her husband in a way that doesn't cause a fight but causes understanding. I think their relationship, even now that I'm getting older, even more so than the Corey and Topanga relationship, shows a really, really good, healthy adult relationship
that's
is
not
fairly
perfect,
believable.
but because I remember at least one storyline where they like have like some issues, like the two of them. So I think that,
which is also important.
Yeah,
having issues is a given.
It's going to happen in a relationship.
Isn't a failure. And this is a totally other just philosophical problem, but like even a relationship failing isn't a failure. A relationship failing or ending can be beautiful.
Yeah.
I don't know. And I like the way that Boy Meets World sure has a lot of problems when it comes to like representation. And I think the way that they use women in the show sometimes, like the girls that everybody just wants to kiss, that kind of thing. But I think it does make an effort to try to take advantage of how meaningful a weekly show that parents and kids can watch together can be on their lives. I think they do a good job of that.
Absolutely.
And with that, now, are you good? Do you want to say anything else before we wrap up the boy in the meeting? Of the
we didn't get a lot to Topanga this episode, but I love Danielle Official and always will.
I thought that Jack in this episode still feels like they're really trying to figure out how to use him in the cast. He hasn't quite like.
I like Jack though.
I like him too, but I think at this point he hasn't quite integrated himself yet. It's later in the series, like in the last two seasons, when Rachel.
I was gonna say when he's got his baby mama drama.
No, that's not what that is at all.
Who's wait.
Rachel's just like a red-haired girl that moves in with him and Eric, and they both kind of feud over him.
That has a baby. Someone has a baby.
I don't think so.
Someone has a baby.
I mean, there's like the Sean and Angela stuff, which is not about having a baby. I don't think there's a thing with a baby. I don't think so.
Somebody has a baby, Zach.
Well, the only way to find out is if the people vote for Boy Meets World. So guys,
vote. See about those babies.
Please vote for Boy Meets World. You know that Steven's got this weird thing with babies. We've got to figure out if there's a baby in this show. And the only way for us to find out is if you vote for Boy Meets World as our next podcast. Like I said, I think that people have it cut out for them. I think I will be excited and a little bit disappointed no matter what show gets picked, because I think they're all... I'm ready to start a podcast about any of them right now.
Yeah.
And I will be a little bit bummed out to be like, oh man, we're doing this, but we don't get to do those 3. I'm so excited, but those would have been great too.
Exactly.
So I'm really looking forward to where this is going to go and where people are going to vote.
Yeah.
The last thing I want to touch on, well, we've got to do our teacher's pet. Our Boy Meets World equivalent of the MVP award. Who is your teacher's pet for Raging Corey and why?
Mine is Eric. I think this is a fantastic Eric episode. I think he's funny. I think
that's
that
a good one.
He's thoughtful. I think that this is like a really strong Eric episode that you don't know is going to be a strong Eric episode at the beginning, which is
they really set it up to be about Corey's issues with his dad, and you're right, it ends up being more of an Eric problem, which is cool. I'm going to give mine to Alan. I think William Russ is a really, really talented actor, and I think he gets to play off some really good stuff here. And my honestly, my honorable mention would probably be Sean, just because Ryder Strong is good at what he does. And with that, let's wrap this up, guys. You can vote starting tomorrow as of when this comes out. October 18th begins 1 week of being able to vote between this show, It's Always Sunny, The Good Place, and Bob's Burgers, for which will be our next episode-by-episode rewatch podcast.
I'm a little nervous. I have like butterflies.
I know.
Zach. Like we're really like here.
About to it, yeah. That'll start. You'll be able to vote, and you'll be able to decide. And next January, the podcast will begin, and it's totally in your hands. So especially if you're a listener of our podcast and you've listened to all these bonus episodes and really have a thought about which show we would be best suited to do, vote. Go out and vote. You know, don't waste your vote. Who cares about the election that's around this time? Just go vote for us in this on Twitter.
Vote here.
Follow us on Twitter at YouCan'tDisAPod to find the poll. It'll, for the length of the poll, it will be our pinned tweet, so you should be able to find it pretty easily. And as we wrap up, I want to plug a couple things. The first being, again, I'd like to plug that after we finish Community, we're doing that series of Community Superlative podcasts. We're going to be doing 7 different top 5 lists of all kinds of topics. And we want you guys to send us in emails, voice memos, and videos of your answers for those top 5 lists.
Send those if you got any bones, throw us those as well, please.
Throw us the bones. Send those into can'tdisappointpodcast@gmail.com by the end of October. Those lists are top 5 homage episodes, top 5 underrated episodes, top 5 golden era, which is seasons 1 through 3 episodes, top 5 silver era, which is seasons 4 through 6 episodes, top 5 plot lines we would have liked to see in the show, top 5 community songs, and top 5 must-haves for the community movie. We'd be really happy to have some of you guys be a part of our final run of podcasts here on this show before we move on to the next thing. So that's your way to get involved. And also, if you want to support us here, take things further, patreon.com/can'tdisappointpodcast. Starts at $5 a month, gets you all kinds of extra content. This podcast a week early every single week. And Steven, as always, where else can the people find us?
You know, again, want to reiterate, come on, take your boys, take your worlds, take your babies, take your pups, bring them on over to Twitter so you can vote in that awesome poll over at You Can't Disapod. We're also on Instagram under the name Can't Disappoint Podcast. And then if you want to get real freaky deaky with us, come over and add us on Facebook and YouTube under the whole name of the show, You Can't Disappoint a Podcast.
Very well said, as always. Now that you finally got it down, we're just about done with it.
Just about done.
So next week is going to be huge. We will be back next Wednesday. Wednesday? What the f***? Scratch that. We will be back.
When have we ever been on Wednesday?
More lashings for me post-pod this week. We will be back next Monday to talk about the series finale of Community. It's our last full episode recap podcast of You Can't Disappoint a Podcast. Wow. We're doing it next week. We're talking about emotional consequences of broadcast television. I hope you'll join us. It's going to be special. We'll be back for that next week. And in the meantime, from inside Chubby's Diner, Black Lives Matter, I'm Zach.
I'm Steven.
We love you very much. We'll see you next week. And please, go vote for your favorite choice. Go pick our next show for us.
When this boy meets world. Sorry, I was going at the beginning, you went at the end.
Yeah.
I love the little ending like stuff after that. That's so burned in my fucking head. Like the production card.
Some of the just music that plays throughout the episode at certain moments, I'm like, yep, I know that by heart.
It's like, holy
I've
shit.
heard that before. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Wandering down this road that we call life is what we're